Dan McKay, and today we are happy to have Sandra Wood on our podcast. Sandra is not only just a certified life coach, but she's also a beacon of resilience and strength. With a special interest in positive psychology, emotional intelligence, boundary management, yoga, and meditation, she has dedicated over 18 years to empowering women to be free, happy, and independent. Her journey of personal growth, ignited by a breast cancer diagnosis in 2004, led her through the difficult process of ending a 20-year marriage, single parenting, and career challenges. The journey shaped her understanding of the intricacies of ending an unhealthy relationship and inspired her to guide other women through the difficult time, but an exhilarating process. Today, she's a published author, a global keynote speaker, and an inspirational force for women worldwide. Now she's in business with her daughter, Julie. They're a dynamic mother-daughter duo dedicated to the empowerment and transformation of professional women. So welcome, Sandra.
Thank you. Thank you for such a great introduction.
Can you share more about your experience with breast cancer and really how it contributed to your personal growth?
Yeah. I think as most of us have times in our lives where something big happened that kind of shook up how we were doing life and made us reevaluate. I think most women who have been on this planet for a bit have had those experiences. And so that was definitely one for me. I was coming into a time in my life where I was really looking at what was next for me. And so when that happened, it came very unexpected. And, like for most of us, a health challenge like that can really make us reevaluate, what are we doing with our life? How did we get here? Like, what does this have to tell us about these experiences? And so that was really my experience being diagnosed, going through treatment. And really, I started asking myself a lot of questions about why I was here, what was next for me. And then also that question of how long am I going to be here? So mortality was on the table, right? Which is, that's part of the process of being here is we don't know when that's going to happen, but having that be in the forefront of my life at that moment really made me ponder. And so I started reading a lot of books. I started investigating things. I started going to therapy, doing all of these different ways to perceive and look at my life. And I had a moment that really felt like it stopped me in my tracks. And I remember I was just standing out in my front yard and I felt like the universe or God was tapping me on the shoulder. And I heard this question. And the question was, are you ready? And, I kind of smiled and then I also went, what? For what? But that just felt like that was my inner self. That was my connection to something outside of myself that was asking me that question. And really what I perceived that question was I ready to change? Was I ready to start having boundaries? Was I ready to start living my life for myself? And that was a daunting task because lots of women are living their lives for other people and, serving others, but not necessarily contemplating and, and entering that question of where am I in all of this?
How do I fit into it?
Yeah.
How did the process of dismantling a 20-year marriage influence your approach to coaching women?
Yeah, hugely, which is why I entered going into this space of relationships and boundaries for women, just because it's what I learned. So I went in the process of, fortunately, I had this wonderful therapist at the cancer center that I was being treated, and she really asked me a lot of questions about my relationship. And so she helped me unpack that, which then led me to making a request that my ex and I go into therapy together. And through that process, I also learned a lot, as far as really what his priorities were, what my focus was. And I started to realize we weren't on the same page at all. And I also got to see that he didn't want to do the change that would be required for him to really match me where I was going. So we essentially grew apart. But we had two young daughters, and so that became a challenging time. Kind of dismantling it and walking through all the steps of what it meant for us to now move our lives apart, and how were we going to parent these girls. So I learned a lot in that process. And even before the true dismantling happened, about setting boundaries, because I was learning about them. So I started doing them while I was still married, and it didn't really resonate with my ex at the time, because he didn't like that. So I was terrible at setting boundaries. It was clunky. It was scary as heck. It was a really hard time, but the more I did it, the better I got at it. And so by the time I was divorced and essentially single parenting, I had learned a lot about boundaries. And then I continued to learn a lot over the years after that too. And that really formed my understanding of the kind of guidance women need when they're evaluating or extricating or changing a relationship. How do you do it? There's no manual for that, really. And at that time, there wasn't a lot for me. And so this is where I feel really passionate about helping women understand how to set boundaries. And it doesn't have to be an intimate relationship, just in life in general. Yeah.
Do you run into women who wonder whether they deserve the role of setting boundaries for themselves?
Yeah. And yeah, because we're told to be nice. We're told, to be compliant. And especially I would say women of my generation, grew up that way, I didn't have anyone demonstrating boundaries when I was growing up. I certainly didn't see it with my parents. Some people did see that, and I think that's fantastic. But I think it's women, first of all, don't know how. So when they venture to and they get pushback, then they just kind of resort back to, well, that was too hard. That's too scary. I don't know how to navigate that. So for me, I feel like, today I was just texting back and forth with a client of mine who's setting a boundary as she's divorcing her husband. And she gave a lot of emotion in her boundary setting, which then hooked her back into the reactive dynamic. So then I came back and said, okay, great job. Great having courage to do that. I'm going to refine that for you and help you understand that it's just black and white. It's just setting a boundary and walking away. So it's those kinds of things.
So talk about a little bit about how you set boundaries in a healthy relationship.
Well, first of all, you have to understand where you begin and end. And I think a lot of people don't know that. So we take on the energy of our partner. And so we don't know if it's their bad mood or our bad mood. So it's like really understanding that you're separate. And that I think those are the really hugest things that we don't understand relationships a lot of times. So when you can do that, then you can acknowledge, oh, that my partner's energy is affecting me in this way, and I can call it out, or I can have a conversation about it. You seem like you're in a grumpy mood, and I'm trying to understand, is there anything I can do to help? But I'm trying to have a great day here. So what's happening? So those kinds of ways. And then it becomes helping women understand nonviolent communication, understanding how you feel, being able to express that, and then maybe make a request or something that you'd like to see different. So these are the nuances of how to have healthy conversations. Yeah.
And do you feel that assertiveness plays a role in that? Because I'm thinking
Yeah.
I am very assertive. That high D on the profile. But just
Yes. Oh, yes. I know that.
so my setting boundaries is, hey, you need to do this too.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Right.
Where
Right.
most people probably don't approach it that way.
Don't, yeah, right.
Is assertiveness a piece of that? People
It's
that
a,
aren't
yeah.
as assertive learning to be more assertive?
Yes, definitely. I feel like, some of us are really spicy in how we deliver a boundary. So I think there's really a way for us to be able to deliver in ways that are less um, activated by anger or frustration. So there's a lot of what I teach people is to get into a space where you're really clear about what's happening, but you're not so reactive. But assertiveness is needed. You have to have courage to be able to step forward, and it could go clunky or awry, or you might have to work that energy out. I certainly have that in my second marriage. We can be kind of spicy, but we also trust each other and can step back a little bit and realize, hey, I'm being a little reactive about that. Let me explore that piece. So then a communication can come out of it that feels good, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether women are a little more open to exploration, or is that more a behavioral style, or what do you think?
I think women are more collaborative and a little bit more co-creative often, because it's kind of how we're built. Caring for children, caring for others. I think we have that way of looking at the world. But I also am married to a man who also is very emotionally intelligent. So, I think it just requires men to understand that it's okay for them to express their emotions, and they don't have to be super forceful about it, because it might feel threatening, because this is not something that maybe some men are used to, this piece. So I feel like when women are really clear and really calm, it can really help those kinds of conversations work better.
How do
Yeah.
you think yoga and meditation might contribute to building the tools and strategies that you need for probably both independence and happiness?
Yeah. I think they're really I think movement in general is really important. I part of my philosophy about why I became a yoga teacher and why I advocate for meditation with the women that I work for or work with is that we are in our heads all the time. We're thinking all the time. And a lot of times we're not even really in our body. So to me, practices like yoga, practices like meditation bring all of ourselves together. And we have a lot of information in our body. And so if we start listening to our body, then we actually can get some key elements and information that if we're just thinking in our head, we're just might be overthinking things. But if we check in with the body and start listening, we may hear, there's something not quite right here. And it helps us pay attention to those things. I feel like a lot of women that I end up working with that are middle-aged, it's their body that's telling them that they need to do something different. And that's what I felt like my cancer was for me. It was an indication that I was overgiving. I didn't have great boundaries, and it was time for me to really take a look at that. So, and then meditation, I feel like, is a reset. It's a reset for us. Rest and meditation are ways for us to slow everything down and actually hear what's happening within ourselves. Yeah.
And does that kind of go hand in hand with journaling?
Yes, I think journaling can be really impactful. I think not everybody is a journaler, but I always tell people that we need to have time for contemplation. So it might look like you just taking a nice quiet walk in your neighborhood without listening to a podcast, without taking your phone. We have to give ourselves spaces and time to really hear what's happening within ourselves, and being able to move that awareness forward and be able to do something about it. So journaling can be a wonderful form. I always just tell people to be aware of, when you're journaling, make sure you're just not telling a same story over and over again. right? Because our narratives and our stories can repeat, and we're just, it then becomes venting. And to me, that's more recycling, not actually addressing and moving forward.
Good point.
Yeah.
How's your signature program? I think you call it Unleash Your Personal Blueprint.
Yes.
Next level you.
Yes. Yeah.
How does that help women transform their lives?
Yeah, so my daughter and I built this program together because what we see in the kind of the coaching industry is there's programs and courses that you can pay for and get into a coaching program, and oftentimes it is what that coach found worked for them. And I've definitely been in a lot of coaching programs where I just couldn't make it fit for me. And then I felt like a failure. And I also, part of why this program came about is helping women get out of unhealthy relationships. Then they were in the place of, well, what's next? And so then the what's next is, let's really get to know you. Let's really figure out who you are. And this is what we're excited about offering this program for women, is because we're not teaching them how to do anything. We're supporting them and listening to their intuition so they can sift through what would be their blueprint. And so we're really helping them understand their ideal design. And we use human design for that piece, but it's also helping them develop based on their own trajectory. So we're just giving them the tools and helping them understand the strategies, but we're helping them be the architect of their new life rather than trying to put on what somebody else has told them that should work for them, because everybody's different. Now we're much more aware of neurodiversity, of, our traumas and all the experiences that we've come here with. I love this program because we're really helping women kind of decondition from who they think they should be to who they really are. And what I found as a coach is, what I love the most about doing this work is that women already have the answers within themselves. They're way smarter. They're way more, they have a lot of wisdom, and being able to help them see themselves from that place and know that they have the answers is to me the most empowering thing, rather than just telling somebody, do this, do that, you'll be good. It doesn't work. We have to work from our own design. So that's really what this Unleash program is. And my daughter and I just started playing with this idea of the next level self. So every 3 to 6 months, we sit down and write out, what's the next level? What's the next level for me? What's the next level in our business? What's the next level in relationships, health, whatever that piece is? So then it's now creating that vision. And now we can start to put the steps into place for that next part. So that's really what we want to do with women, is help them figure out that piece based on who they are. Yeah.
You are also a published author. And
yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your book, and then what inspired you to write it?
Well, so I'm part of an anthology book. So my story is in this book. So it was my first foray. And so it's Transforming Your Life is the book. And I think there's 4 versions of it. So it's on Amazon. You can find it on my website. But I basically tell my story in that book. And so I can't remember how many coaches are talking, but I wanted to do that because I love writing, and that's one of my ways of expression. It's one of the juiciest things I like to do is write. But that process was really about me. And it was about me telling my story. And in doing that, it made me realize that it's really important for us to be able to tell our stories and to be heard. And then we carry on, right? So the story is said, the story is revealed, and then we go from there. So for me, that's what that journey was about. And actually, it was really hugely healing for me to be able to tell that story, and actually for my family to read it. So
what's the name of the book?
It's Transform Your Life. I think it's version 5, and it is on Amazon. So if you just put my name in, Sandra Wood, you'd find me in there. And so that was my beginning step. Now there'll be a book that is just mine, that will be in the works, but it was just a way for me to really be able to connect to others, and also to be able to make it be the very first start of this journey for me as an author. Yeah. Yeah.
What advice would you give someone who feels maybe trapped in a relationship or maybe trapped in a life that's not meaningful?
Wow. Um, well, to know that you're worth it. So it's worth the journey. I think that's the advice that I would give someone. I say this consistently. It's never too late to change. It doesn't matter if you're 40, 75, it's never too late to change. And so it just begins with you. And I will always have women start with the place of just write out where you are right now. Where are you in life? How does it feel? What's the challenge? What are the problems? Just get clear on that piece and then start asking yourself, where would you rather be? And a lot of women are like, I don't know. I just don't know. So then I start asking them, how would you like to feel? And so then if we can start to think about how we want to feel, then that starts driving us forward to start putting the pieces together to figure out what is next. And then I also would advise someone to find meaningful support. A lot of times our families or friends are not the places to get that support. So reach out to someone. Reading books is helpful, but just feeling connected to someone or something, counseling, therapy can also be a nice place to start too. It then helps you feel like you have the support that you need to move forward. But I will just always say that it does take courage and the ability to know that you're worth it, no matter what your mind is telling you about yourself. Yeah.
How can a person balance the desire for personal growth and independence with the need for meaningful relationships?
Mhm. Wow. They have to start with themselves first and know who they are. And then balancing relationships when you know who you are and when you feel more grounded in your purpose or you're feeling like you're living a more fulfilling life is easier than to have relationships. It's a work in progress, as I'm sure you know, Nan. Relationships take time and they take effort. I think it's the ability to know if a relationship is healthy or not is really the crucial piece here, because if you can acknowledge, I have a lot of toxic relationships, then that's a great place to start. When you start feeling like you're setting boundaries and you're feeling more confident in who you are and what you want in your life, it becomes easier to manage meaningful relationships because it's easier to say, no, that's not in alignment with me, or that's not going to work for me, or actually, I have a different request of how you approach me on these things. So I don't know if that answers that, but
Tell me
yeah.
a bit more about you and your daughter being in business together. How old is she,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how did that come about? And
Yes.
do you work
Yes.
full time together? And that kind of
Yeah. So, I mean, my daughters were raised with a mom who was a coach. So you can see that it would probably inform them. My oldest daughter is Julie, and she's 32. And she is also a coach, but she was in the arena of health. And also, she ran a business for a chiropractor company. So she's run programs and she's done a lot of coaching. So she's done a lot of development coaching for teams, for professionals. And then I've been over on the other side working with relationships. And I've always had the desire to be in business with my daughters. And so this just sort of came up as she started realizing I want my own business, and watching me for the last years do my own business. She was like, wait a minute, I want to do that too. Yeah. And she has special talents that I don't necessarily have. So us working together is pretty powerful impact. We don't live in the same states. I live in Idaho. She lives in Iowa. So
eyes.
yeah. So we travel back and forth. I was just in Iowa doing a bunch of work, and we're working on rebranding. So that's coming out soon. My website will get updated here pretty quick. So, but it's really, really exciting because we both have totally different things to offer women. And so it's really nice because they're not getting one coach, they're getting two coaches. And then we're walking them through this whole blueprint program together. So it's really exciting. I never thought this would happen. And there's not a ton of mother-daughter coaching duos out there. So we're excited to be able to talk to folks and share, that this is a thing. You can have a family work together and provide value for others. So
It's interesting. I have another couple that I am interviewing that I've known for a little while, Terry Sarah and her daughter, Kelly Fox. And
nice.
so it is interesting to hear about the combination of mother and daughter and how that works out for people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how would people connect with you? Would they go to your website, or is there a better way since you're doing it? Or
yes, the best way is to go to Instagram or Facebook and just type in Sandra Wood Coach.
okay.
Super easy to find me. Instagram's nice because I do have the pull down menu and there's a lot of podcasts they can listen to. There's free resources in there. That's a great place. And then my website is sandrawood.coach. So it's still there. It's still current for women going through relationship challenges. It's just going to include more of the what happens after the relationship transformation, really. So that's how
will your new website would have the same URL?
It will. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that will be live. That will be there. And then my daughter is Julie K. Jones. And so she's Julie. Now I have to remember Julie K. Jones Coaching as well.
Okay.
But if they come to me, they'll definitely find a way to get to that as well. So that's.
So just explain to people, talk a little bit about your business and what exactly, if somebody said, yeah, she sounds like a person I really like to talk to, what do they do?
Yes. Yeah. What do we do? So we work with women that are feeling, we definitely work with professional women that feel successful in a certain way, but are feeling stuck or kind of unmotivated or not feeling like it's enough. So it's that piece where it's okay, like an example of a client right now, she works virtually at home. She's been doing this business for years. She's unfulfilled. And so she's really looking at exploring what's next for her. So it's that kind of woman who, and really what we're doing is helping women connect to their soul purpose. It's why are you here? What are you doing? How do we It's basically taking a woman who's having an ordinary life to an extraordinary life. That's the goal of our work with women. So like I said, we use all kinds of things. We use Strength Finder, human design, all kinds of aspects of helping them cultivate who am I, and then also really getting connected to how do you use your energy for, how do you stay in a higher vibration energy so you can make these things happen. So we're getting past narratives and stories and old ways of thinking, breaking down identity. So we really understand who we are beyond all of the roles that we have in life.
Getting through the imposter syndrome, probably.
Yes, all of those pieces. And then helping women work in a way that's efficient for them, not how they've been told to work. Some people do better working 4-hour days. Some people can go, 12-hour days and still feel super energized. So this is the really big portion of this is really us coming with that person and really helping them understand what's going to work for them. What is success going to do for them? And what does it look like for them? Because it may not be what it looks like for somebody else.
True.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great talking with you. And I'm sure a lot of people would say, hey, that's somebody I'd like to get to know a little better. So now they know how to do it.
Yes.
You'll be able to perhaps get some people that are going to contact you. Thank you so much for your information.
This was awesome.